family. They'd been in Korea, they'd been in World War II, some of them been in World War One. They're used to folk getting dead. You got a whole bunch of folk got done in the Nam, 52,000 folk and 56,000 later on for fallout from the Nam. World War II, you got that many people got shot down in the 15th Air Force in 14 months, and about the same in the 8th Air Force, and you got a whole bunch of casualties. You go back to the Civil War. You ever heard of Gettysburg? I think 70 years ago, for the Gettysburg Address,
They even
they
teach
had
that stuff anymore in school anymore?
yeah,
No,
but
not
you know
really.
why they celebrated Gettysburg? Now, how many casualties have they had over in the sand pile in 23 years over there? 5,600 dead folk.
Ooh.
Gettysburg, they had 83,000 in 3 days, to give you a perspective. See, more people got killed in the American Civil War than all of the rest of the wars we've been in combined. So it's kind of sort of, you take people with a perspective. We get bent out of shape because 5 or 6 people get done in a big city that's got a population that is a big chunk of what the U.S. used to have. Back in the Civil War, we may have had 40, 45 million people, and you get that many folk get killed. Now we got 360 million folk, and the people get bent out of shape, and everybody wants to go march because one person got done in by some freak somewhere. And if you divide that one by 365 million, you get a whole bunch of zeros before you get to a number. So we get entertainment values. CNN started off in the 80s, and it almost went bankrupt by 1989. And 1990, it was in serious trouble. They were thinking of closing the thing up. And then they had the Gulf War. And then you could see, ladies and gentlemen, look at that. A cruise missile. And they're on the 7th floor, and it's flying past the hotel room on the 7th floor. And the cameraman gets a quick, like you can see it make a steep right-hand bank to go around the building complex at the end of the street. And then boom, the explosion as it blows something up. That was exciting. Lots of news. And then afterwards, what are you going to do? Now that we saved ourselves financially, we're on, what are we going to do? Well, you started getting this stuff. Like there was a rogue cop went crazy out in L.A. He was getting revenge, and his fellow cops were helping him. And they may have caught him in a log cabin in the high Sierras. They set the log cabin on fire. So I'm watching.
Chris Dorner, yes.
Yes, so the log cabin is smoking, it's burnt down. And for 43 minutes, the two talking heads are going, Al, what do you think happened? I don't know, Tommy. Well, Al, maybe they caught the guy in there. Tommy, I don't know, but maybe they killed him or something. I don't know. Do you think they burned him up? I don't know, Al. He's looking at the same damn thing you're looking at. You don't have any answers. He doesn't have any answers. Instead of saying, we'll wait and see what the hell's happening, they're entertaining you with their witty speculations, which is BS. So we have these opinion things instead of news. When I was growing up, news said we have a breaking story here. There was an armed robbery, allegedly, on Broadway in Los Angeles where 3 people were shot. 1 person is a fatality. That's all we have. If there are any more updates, we will interrupt our regular programming. Thank you. Back to whatever you were doing. Now they sit on there and they blather away 24/7 with nothing to say, and they try to make it entertaining, and they switch to the tabloid model. I remember when I was trying jury cases as a defense lawyer, I had laminated 2 National Enquirer headlines. The first one said, loving couple adopts infant, half boy, half pig, born to a tame sow in barnyard. And they had them with this baby with a pig snout airbrushed on. Now, a year and a half later, this pig is aged 5 years. 5-year-old half boy, half pig, adopted by loving couple, is thriving in kindergarten. And they had this boy sitting on daddy's knee with an airbrush pig snout on. And I used to show it to jury, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, just because it's in print. Do we believe this? And I
No.
now that kind of shit is what we get from mainstream news. They can't say there are reports that individuals in such and such county, Georgia, have been challenged in court over election fraud and leave it. Obviously, another Trump-inspired false accusation of non-existent election tampering that did not occur. Another bogus complaint has been made in Fulton County or Cobb County or whatever county, Georgia. And it's like, okay, why are you editorializing? It used to be you try to come up with a story and then you save the comment to the editorial section, and the gossip crap you put on the last column, last page of the last section of the newspaper for those folk with compromised character who just had to get the latest gossip or inquiring minds. And now CNN, CBS, ABC, NBC, MSNBC, every damn thing in hell, they operate on an inquiring mind basis, and nobody can wait. I told somebody last night on a thing I was doing with Miss Dana, I said, look, you ever see Star Wars? Somebody wanted to call it X space, Twitter space. I said, you ever check out Star Wars? Yeah. You remember when Obi-Wan was telling Luke, patience is a great virtue, Padawan. Yeah, it is. Wait, goddammit. You don't need to know this shit. Wait and see what happens instead of speculating. And besides, by the time you find out any information, you won't remember anything because you'll be focused on your speculation. Like, for example, and in reporting, you know what bothers me? Okay, they got Diddy out there. All right. We got the so-called raid on his 2 homes, right?
Right.
Did anybody think to mention that what's supposed to have happened does not go along with Homeland Security's mandate? See, Homeland Security is supposed to, since it got stuck with 911, deal with man-made disasters. It's like what happened with the Twin Towers, and they added on to it natural disasters. It's got to do with immigration, customs, and border security. Okay. It's got to do with, guess what? Cyber security. It's got to deal with terrorist activity. How does that have a damn thing to do with what they're talking about? Accusations against the man, sex trafficking? Is it international sex trafficking? Is it terrorism? Is it compromising the security of the United States, the internal security? Okay, 1 or 2 people is not internal security. So what's this about? How about the fact that they didn't even deal with this? They raided one of his mansions in California. In Florida, they searched the mansion. But what about the second mansion that's on the exact same lot right next door? Why didn't they search that? So out of this entire thing, they get a lawn bag full of some stuff in one cardboard box, not too big. And then they interview the party in question at a Florida airport. So, okay, we got what we need. We talk to him. You can go about your business. And he flies down to the Caribbean. So what the hell's going on? Did anybody ask any questions? How come this doesn't look like what NSA is?
Well, I think it's like the
Homeland
Epstein
Security is supposed to be
stuff.
up to?
No one is above the table, you know?
Yeah,
It's
but
that kind of thing.
what I know, and you mean to tell me that all of these high-paid folk that are supposed to be giving you some knowledge and information on these news services doesn't know this? All of the criminal cases I defended as a lawyer, I know that when the feds do that, and you get a federal agency, one of these alphabet agencies going in and they're investigating, you know, a state ethics violation. Hell, the FBI doesn't investigate state criminal offenses. So we've got accusations of sexual misconduct at state. What in the hell does Homeland Security have to do with state charges? Not one damn thing. If it's interstate, then you bring in the FBI. They're just having a few there, so nobody asked that. And what happens when you get that? Here's what they're doing. It's a cover. Because they're going in there searching for something else, and they don't want the public to know what they really went in there for, so they give you the bullshit. So you're looking at the bullshit, and what they're doing is what they want is to get something to compromise the person so they'll agree to be a snitch on somebody else they are targeting. That's damn near 90% of the time what they're doing.
Yeah, because I mean that's what they've been going on with a lot of cases nowadays. If you look at it, because like you said, the FBI don't go in unless they have to go in, and if it's not anything they're looking for, they're compromising. They're trying to make sure this person gonna turn.
And see, was it a raid? It was a search. You get a search warrant on probable cause where it leads an independent magistrate or judge to believe that there is likely to be some sort of contraband or evidence towards some other criminal activity that's present.
It looked like a drug raid to me.
Yeah. The other thing is that if you have an arrest warrant, there's probable cause to believe that this individual committed a crime, and you can have a search incident to an arrest. There was no arrest. And we got BS given to us about them coming in to investigate stuff that is nominally a state offense. Nominally, if it's anything federal, would be within the jurisdiction of the FBI, and not something that would be dealing with internal security of the United States to protect it from a terrorist attack or cyber subversion, not control of the border, immigration, or customs, and not dealing with a man-made or natural disaster. So FBI, remember, got created back before World War I to catch heavyweight champion Jack Johnson, who had a white wife, and they got charged with investigating illicit sexual activity, taking women across state line for inappropriate purposes, and that led to the Mann Act, which most recently it made the news when they got R. Kelly under it. And they got Jack Johnson, who was traveling with his wife to Europe. They crossed Georgia for 15 minutes to get to a seaport. And when the train stopped, the nascent FBI agents jumped on with local officials. FBI was not armed in those days. And they arrested Jack Johnson for violation of what became the Mann Act because Georgia didn't recognize interracial marriage. So there you go. So that's how the FBI got started, to deal with interstate sexual activity, which is interesting. J. Edgar Hoover, if you've ever looked at him, he looks like a pretty fair-skinned black guy, not an old liver-spotted white guy. And he got passed off as a fancy boy on the third floor at some of these New York brothels for those with a peculiar kind of taste. And he knew all of the hoes that worked up in there, and they knew all of the politicians and elected officials that would take a train up from D.C. to Frisk and Frolic. So after World War II, World War I, when the FBI got given the task of investigating and recording legal alcohol manufacturing as well as interstate sex trafficking, he blackmailed some people into letting the FBI carry guns. Now, it's interesting about that. The qualifications to be an FBI agent were to be nominally an attorney specializing in tax and or a certified public accountant, not exactly a badass on the streets. So they started having these special agents like Melvin Purvis, who is known as G-Man. Melvin Purvis is supposed to have killed 45 plus people as a detective. And Elliot Ness is supposed to have killed 25 to 30 before he got brought in by Hoover as a special agent to deal with gangsterism in Chicago in that instance. J. Edgar got jealous of both of them, so he suppressed them, and peculiarly, they committed suicide within 6 months of each other in the late 40s. No investigation. That's the story. So you've got all kinds of things going screwed up here about what you have with the FBI. And the FBI, I could see if they raided the gentleman in question, considering the allegations, that's what they got created to do, to deal with interstate sex trafficking. So what the hell do they have Homeland Security there for?
I just think they're throwing him under the bus because the culture's had enough. They just want to see his downfall. Once you're under the gun, they want you, it's time to get rid of you. It's your time.
Well, yeah. I'm not approaching this as to whether he's a good guy or bad guy, because most of the time when I applied the law, I got somebody that is in front of me when I was on the criminal bench. It's like, dude, this ain't a nice guy. And how about this one? You have a right to
a lot of evidence against him.
Well, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used in evidence against you. You have a right to be advised by an attorney. You may stop this interrogation at any time and seek the advice of counsel. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed to represent you, etc., etc. That is called Mirandizing a witness or a suspect. And Miranda was not a nice guy. I mean, he was pretty badass acting somebody, and he wasn't good. And most of the people that the law applies to, that gets tested and restated or emphasized or developed, they don't deal with good guys. So I'm not looking at it in terms of whether the suspect is a good guy or a bad guy. I'm just looking at it as whatever the character of the person involved. That has nothing to do with the law, because the law is blind. Yeah. It's not supposed to be concerned with that, because if you set a precedent, well, he's a bad guy, we can get away with this. Well, what winds up happening is you get away with it with everybody, and you can use it for political purposes, political persecution and repression, rather than just bringing justice. You've got a lot of laws right now that have been severely compromised because they're trying to protect women. Okay, I'm not against protecting women, but when you make exceptions to the rule based on your desire to protect a certain class, what winds up happening is you start compromising the whole thing, because law is about consistency. So when you say the statute of limitations runs on everything of this category at 10 years, 5 years, 1 year, 2 years, 15, 20, 25, and then you say, well, these people have been hurt, so we're going to revive this. So now you got this guy who's 67 years old, hasn't been in any trouble. So there's some chick that's frustrated, and she remembers when she had a date with him at a drive-in movie theater when she was 15 and he was 16. Then they got to playing hanky-panky in the back of the 154 pickup in a sleeping bag. And now she complains he doesn't even remember what her name is. So where are the witnesses and anybody else? How's he going to come up with them? So we want justice for some. Say, yeah, but it's not just for one individual. That's what you have civil suits for. It's about for the operation of the society, so you maintain public peace, dignity, and order.
That's true. That is so true. That's why that's why a lot of cases like that get thrown out, because it's like you want to put somebody in, jeopardy of losing their lives because you he don't remember your name and y'all had sex, but he don't remember your name. So now you want to, say he raped you. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, that don't make any sense. Why would you want to put somebody, potentially go to jail for years just because he don't remember your name or he just don't want to give you the time of day?
And all right, some of these laws come up from some ignorant people. They have law licenses, law degrees, but they're not very smart and they're ignorant and they're rookies because most of them don't have sufficient trial experience to be in the position they're in. It's like getting referred to a doctor. You go to the doctor and find out he's never done an internship or a residency in a hospital. He's an amateur. He doesn't know crap. You can look at Fannie Willis down in the proceedings in Georgia and see that. She contends that it was an office romance. She didn't have an involvement with Wade when it started and it developed. Well, actually, that makes it worse because if it was already developed, you could say, well, it was about over. We didn't need to tell anybody. He's going through a divorce. It wasn't going to compromise. We apologize and accept the private reprimand from the Bar Ethics Committee. Okay, fine. Judge might get pissed off. We should have told him up front before the appointment was made. No, she says it developed later. Well, that makes it worse because one, now you're on a case where there's a compromise, so you keep your dick in your pants and keep your pussy closed and your knees locked. You don't do that. So when you go to do that, you violated your ethical constraints that are supposed to keep you chaste while you're involved in a matter that you don't need to be sleeping with somebody you're working with or for under the circumstances because you're supposed to be independent. So that's one wrong. Next thing, they didn't report it to the judge. That's the second wrong. Then they kept it concealed. That's the third wrong. Then she puts herself in a situation where she continues to make the authorization over the money that is reimbursed to him, which is so far we've heard $720,000, which to give you a perspective, that's 3 times what the Georgia governor makes. That is more, almost twice what the president of the United States makes. And that is twice what the Attorney General of the United States of America makes for all of the legal business of the United States. And they stood to make $3.5 to $7 to $8 million out of this. So is there a kickback thing going on here where the two of them seem to be sharing it? There's this little bit where she says she takes $50K out of her 401K account, which means it's taxable. She doesn't report that to IRS, doesn't pay taxes on it. It's required to be reported under the Georgia disclosure laws. And she only reports 19,000, and she says she gets 8,400 reimbursed from them with her campaign, which is interesting because it turns out she had a lien against her home for $8,400. She certified to the IRS she didn't have the ability to pay it because she was broke at the time paying out for campaign. But now we find she had $15,000 back money in a cookie jar for a rainy day that she lied to the feds with, which is an indictable count, and in the amount it's a felony. And we have all kinds of other stuff, the alleged money laundering that we have. She was fool enough to even bring in a witness who was a waiter, said she was in Napa, California, and she ran up a $400+ tab, not including the tip. She paid it in cash. Wade did have sense enough to receipt everything. She didn't receipt anything. She didn't record anything. And so far in the evidence she gave, it's $56,000 cash that was unreceipted, unrecorded, that IRS would add on as taxable income to her $220,000 salary. So she's got all kinds of problems. She put a dumb ass in because she didn't remember the Fifth Amendment. Now, the judge was quietly reminding her of the Fifth Amendment at several points during her testimony. Most laymen didn't get it, but I did. So what is she going to say? They didn't advise me of my Fifth Amendment right. Oh, you the goddamn DA for one of America's big cities. and you didn't know what the hell your Fifth Amendment rights were? What the devil's wrong with you? So now she's got at least 4 complaints against her for various agencies that are official agencies with the bar. She's going to have to answer that. She's about to get number 5 because she's got the taxpayers paying for these problems, like it was the DA's office that did something unethical rather than her personally. The next bloody thing is we've got a lawyers association has filed a lawsuit against her for failure to comply with the law in Georgia, which says if anybody is held in jail for more than 45 days on a felony without being indicted, the DA has an obligation affirmatively to bring it to the attention of a criminal court judge, and she hasn't done that. They've got people been in jail for 3-4 years that have never been indicted. So what the hell? Why are they in jail? The next thing is the state added up $7 million to catch up on past due prosecutions. And in Fulton County, we've got a mass number of citizens saying, hell, they've had this person in jail for 3 years. They haven't charged him. And I'm looking for justice. So I've been in jail for 2.5 years. I haven't been charged. Why am I sitting here without being charged? I want a trial one way or the other. And where did the $7 million go? That was to catch up on prosecutions that hadn't been made. What about the people who elected you to protect them as chief law enforcement officer? See, she walked in there and put herself in that. I'm just saying, this is the kind of dumb stuff we see that is supposed to not be done. You know, you look at CSI and the people, you know, versus so-and-so Law and Order, and you see the mature, very experienced elected district attorney. He's chastising his guys. Look, don't you come up in here doing this kind of thing if you don't have somebody to back this up. No, we're not going to indulge in this kind of bluff stuff. You either have it or you don't. Now, if you got it, fine. No, we're not going to do that. So what do we have? The biggest idiot out there is head of law enforcement for a large portion of one of the biggest cities in the country. So what do you have here? What kind of mess is it? She walks in there hand on hip. Let me tell you, I decided I'm going to testify, and throws this stuff down on the opposing counsel's desk. And the attorneys for the DA's office are discussing with the judge whether or not she needs to testify. He says, excuse me, we're trying. Well, I'm decided I'm going to testify. All right, come on up. You know, raise your right hand. And she said, and I don't know what Mr. Wade is a Southern gentleman, but I can say that ain't me. And I used to language. Like, well, what's the matter with you?
You did do that.
Shut your damn mouth. Nobody know about this bullshit you've been up to. Now you killed everybody. Now you got all these people challenging your stuff because you did wrong and you getting caught. They just picking on a sister because it's a strong black woman, and they on me because I'm doing the sister girl thing, you know, and I should have a right. I have my weakness. No, fool. Tell that to the folk you've been locking. Whoa, I forgot you haven't locked anybody up. Oh, wait a minute. You charged some school teachers with RICO. You charged the president with RICO, and your dumb behind's been on the witness stand testifying about you implicated in your own RICO situation and build one hell of a case on your dumb ass and money laundering too. What's the matter with you?
Oh wow! I
think judge is the one to sick on the order and try to lock that down for us.
Man,
you know?
Yeah, and I'm listening.
He's got the moxie to lock that in, Drew. You know.
Oh yeah.
We need Karen on the show with Judge Joe Brown, you know, and let them two go at it and say, listen, she basically charged for a fake movie, so
yeah, that is the worst dumb crook stunt I've seen in 50 years. More than 50 years. I've never seen anything like it. I'm sitting there with a checklist and I'm going now. Damn, money laundering, embezzlement, damn, fraud, damn, failure to report, oh,
Wow.
kickback, oh no, kickback, perjury, hell, and the judge called her a liar 6 times in his written report, 24
Oh, wow.
pages. He just said mendacious. Mendacious, if you look at it in the dictionary, says lying. That's the definition.
Wow.
So
Wow.
he said her testimony was unbelievable. It was extraordinary. He even invited the Trump crew to file a motion to gag her, which he would said the court will be compelled to grant any request to gag, that comes from the defendant. See, listen. And see, well, she's got 2 defendants that already pled guilty. Yeah, but that's not really associated with this, because what they pled guilty to is something independent of what everybody else is up there with. You're trying to tie it in. Now they pled guilty. They're not in there. You can't even bring this stuff up, you dumb bunny. What the hell are you trying to do?
That's true. That's so true, because here when I'm in Atlanta and I've been following it for a minute, and I even said, even though if she didn't do anything wrong, she was stupid to get on the stand and talk about this, because it just implicated a whole lot that should not even been out there.
I counted 17 felonies that I can think of that she implicated and incriminated herself with, federal and state. I don't believe.
Wow.
I don't believe this. And then, wait a minute. I did my show. I did with Dana, and we had some people on from Fulton County. Wait a minute. How about this one? She campaigned, and they had some of the campaign speeches. I'm going to end this sexual misconduct with employees that has been happening under my predecessor. Now it comes out she's been sleeping with the crime DA, and she threw him under the bus. Now look what she's talking about. And the daddy got up there and testified that when he was staying there all these years, the DJ, who had some kind of government job, he doesn't remember what, was there every day. So she been screwing the prior DA while she's screwing the DJ. And then she starts screwing Wade when we get the GPS came out and started saying, he's calling you from your driveway inside your fence. What the hell's going on?
Oh my God. I defended her, and I defended her too. I can defend her no more, because I'm like, these are her personal issues. We're not supposed to be in her personal life. We're supposed to be talking about, what's going on in the office. But now, Judge, that you're bringing this to light, is like, all this went over my head.
And see, the worst thing that they were up to is this. The other 2 criminal trial experienced lawyers that are special counsel, they submitted a claim between them like $60,000. This dude, who's never tried a criminal case, has submitted a bill that he's been paid $720,000 on it. So the implication is that she and he got this thing going on where they decided to do something, since, guess, here's the conflict. She had the absolute final say on whether his claims for reimbursement or pay were to be granted. So in other words, if she's sticking him, over the course of this, he ultimately could have submitted a claim between $3 and $7.5 million that was likely to be okayed by her, and she'd get a kickback from it, which goes to these cash transactions. So it's like, that's RICO.
Wow.
That's money laundering. What the hell is wrong with you? And you took the stand? How could this not come out?
Wow. And see, and this is why I said, why do people get in these high positions when you're doing, crap like this, and then it's coming out on you that you've done this. But the hypocritic part about it is, you're trying somebody for RICO, but yet you're doing it yourself.
Yeah, teach for RICO, Trump for RICO. What about the rapper for RICO based on the lyrics of his tape?
Right.
And then look at her.
Young Thug, I think you're talking about.
I think it's Young Thug. And that case has been going on for about maybe about half of last year and half of this year. So it's probably like 7 months now.
Yeah.
Well, I got a question. I got a question
prosecuted.
for the judge, if that's
Go
all
ahead.
right. I wanted to talk about the situation quickly about somebody basically stealing from the community. You know, starting a Kickstarter, starting to GoFundMe, using a fan base to fund something, but yet the money just magically disappears. Then nothing ever happens. You question them at a Comic-Con. What can the fans really do from a legal standpoint? From how do we fight back? How do we not necessarily get the money out of
what
them?
happens? You might, I'm saying might, and it depends
Right.
upon the state and circumstances, have an action for fraud in the inducement. In other words, you fraudulently indicated that there was a charitable purpose that you were contributing to when it wasn't, or that you were contributing to a charity that never wound up having the money spent on. So that would become false pretenses. Advertising.
Well, it was more of a promise of a movie. It was a promise of a project. You know, you were helping fund something that they were
in other
selling.
words, that became fraudulent in the fraud in the inducement. So there are rules about it. They vary from state to state, place to place, and then there's some federal rules. I don't know. I'm not going to be I'm not in the business of giving legal advice anymore. I'm just making observations. You might want to check with.
There's some wrongdoing there, you know.
Familiar with this kind of thing.
Man. So I do have a question too for you, Judge, and we're not going to hold you too much more longer because we've been going over for 2 hours, and I enjoyed this conversation with you. But I want to talk about we have another actor that's been that's going to court next month for the PPP loan fraudulent cases. Now, what do you think that these people, when the PPP loans came out back in 2020 to provide, substantial income for like low businesses who couldn't fund themselves, and these people are getting away with stuff like this? What is your take on it, and can you let us know, like, if these people can be, prosecuted to like the fullest extent?
That's what you elected Fannie for. Is she doing it?
Pretty much.
I guess I answered my own question.
That's why you elect attorney generals, district attorney generals. See, there's one over the state, and then there's one for the local stuff. Is that what your elected official is doing?
Well, it's not our elected official, but yes, that's what she's doing. But we was talking about an actor from, one of the.
I know, but
okay,
saying, like Fannie, you have where you live an elected district attorney. That's their job. You have a U.S. attorney for the district in question if it crosses state lines. What are they doing? That's their job. You complain to them, say, hey, this guy defrauded us. He had a GoFundMe, and we sent it in with his advertised expectations that it would be used for X. It doesn't seem like it's been used for anything at all. What are we going to do about this?
Man, yes, because I've been telling people that you guys will have to pay this stuff back, and a lot of people say, no, we don't. It's free money, and then yet they're going out here scheming and scamming and putting, getting
that's scam. It's a fraud. If there's no intent to use the money for the stated purpose, then it becomes fraudulent.
And see, that's the thing. And the other thing, Judge, I don't know if Dana got it to you about the actor we're talking, Austin St. John, that ended up pretty much, he took from the PPP program. How much was it, Nello? Was it like $6 million?
Six figures at least.
Yeah. I think it was around $6 million. He took personally, and they had agents come down to his house, kick open the door, grab him, and arrest him because he and his team had been taking that money and pocketing a lot of it. And he goes to court in May, and he's talking about he's going to fight it and everything like that. But it's looking like he totally took it.
I mean, because
well, innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. That's the law. But
Correct.
the probable cause, go after it. See, that's what you call fraud and embezzlement, allegedly. Now, one of
the government's money.
You're from Atlanta. Somebody needs to look into what they're doing in Cobb County, particularly with the child support situations and the custody things. They've got, at least in some courts down there, what is arguably a racket with some of the guardian ad litems and custody determinators getting paid more by somebody than the attorneys who represent them get paid. Where you've got $40,000, $50,000, and $80,000 fees going to somebody that doesn't do well practicing law, but is friends of the wife of a judge, let's say. They get guardians. You get situations where Child Protective Services are alarmed at something that's gone. There's a pedophile uncle or something like that. And the police are reporting things. Psychologists and psychiatrists are reporting it. And because it's inconvenient to the money-making prospects, you get guardian ad litems intervene to block the investigations. And it's just a bad situation, but somebody needs to look into what's being done in domestic law down there in Cobb County. Not all of them, but some of the activities are very suspect. And Georgia does have a recent history of several tens of judges who've been locked up, convicted of this kind of inappropriate behavior, and it looks like it's going on in Cobb County.
I would keep my eyes open for that because I'm in DeKalb County, so I would definitely keep an eye out on that. And
not DeKalb, not. Oh no,
I know it's Cobb. I'm saying I'm right next door to it, since because I'm literally 20 minutes from Smyrna. So I can definitely look into it, Judge, because we've been looking at some stuff down here, like with the Fulton County situation with Funny, and then all this other stuff that's been going on. I've been looking into it. So I'm glad you brought that up, because that's something I can definitely look into and report back to you once I get it.
I've got a contact for you. Good sister who is getting done absolutely horrible down there. And the lawyers are scared to do anything. But somebody needs to publicize it. Get my number, since I've met all of you. You all get with me, send me a text so I can put you in my contacts, and I'll get you hooked up.
I'll give the number too, sir. I'll get it done.
Right.
And sir, we got to ask you, the same guy that did the PPP program, he can't seem to stay out of the spotlight. Check this out, sir. He decided to make a public announcement on a video on YouTube that he's making T-shirts with Hitler quotes, because he said Hitler was someone that we should kind of admire in so many situations.
I got it.
Awesome one-liners, he said.
Yeah.
He had great quotes. He had great quotes.
There's this matter of poor taste. He's got a right to do what he's doing, but the exercise of a right sometimes is inappropriate under certain circumstances.
Right, exactly.
I'll just say, take the good side. Maybe what he's doing is illustrating something about current circumstances, because some of the quotes he's got, I see some of the current administration doing. Did you see that thing about cooperation with making sure that people's feelings don't get hurt? That's little weird, you know, where you start restricting free speech because somebody's feelings might get hurt, even if they're talking straight truth. That new thing that they're trying to slip in gun control on that Biden announced through an executive order, that's a little crazy in terms of its applications. All sort of myths being put out there. It's kind of crazy what's going on these days. So I had a professor back 1967. She was given a dispensation by the U.S. Department of State to teach at UCLA. She had been a professor emeritus at the University of Moscow. A woman. She had been declared a hero of the Soviet Union because she was Nikita Khrushchev's deputy assistant commissar at Stalingrad siege in World War II. She had also been the highest ranking woman on the Soviet Politburo at one time, and she actually ran propaganda for the KGB, and before that for the NKVD. And one time she only had two superiors, Comrade Stalin and Comrade Beria, who was chief of the secret police for the Soviet Union and then became premier after Stalin's death until he got assassinated. And she'd worked for Nikita Khrushchev. She had something to say about fascism in America. She said, America is in grave danger of becoming a fascist country. Quote, not from goose-stepping, jackboot-wearing uniformed thugs, but from pink panty-wearing, long-haired beatniks, unquote. And then paraphrasing it, it was, in the interest of protecting their weird ways, they will happily impose the methodology of fascism to keep the rest of you under control and them safe. So be vigilant.
Right.
Now, I'm not down in homosexuality. You want to go there, get your freak on in your bedroom. But I'm talking about this cult thing where you're trying to impose shit on everybody else.
Right.
Like somebody I know in Hollywood that is gay, he said it's like Jim Jones. Even if you're a Christian, doesn't mean you supported Reverend Jim Jones and drinking Kool-Aid at these Guyana church picnics. And even though the mayor of San Francisco, Kamala's boyfriend, Willie Brown, was a staunch supporter of Jim Jones, that doesn't mean that he's being a good Christian because he is a staunch supporter of Jim Jones. And if you're Islamic, it doesn't mean you support Al-Qaeda or ISIS.
Right.
So there is that to be considered. But we're looking at nascent fascism. I've never seen anything like it because I look at, okay, what's her name? Letitia
James.
That's embarrassing. That judge, the pencil neck dork up there, is an embarrassment to the profession. See, there is a grounds for appeal called verdict inconsistent with the evidence. And the interesting thing is there's not one shred of evidence that there is any victim in that case that they've got all, what was it, $454 million. It was supposed to be put up as a bond that appellate court slashed to $175 million. That the judge, by his orders, prevented Trump's side from being able to deal with. See, it's like I write you a check, either one of you, and you take it to the bank and you cash it. And then Letitia comes along and says, he wrote you a bad check. No, he didn't. Yes, he did. I took it to the bank and they cashed it in my first presentation. Well, he wrote you a bad check. So the bank industry said, we always do business like this. quote. We do not rely upon the customer. We do our own independent investigation. He's always paid us off. These assessments are in line with what we do. And you are relying upon the tax assessed value, the assessed value for tax purposes, not the assessed value for marketing. Now, give you an example. The judge said, in my opinion, Melargo's only worth maybe 18 million. There wasn't one shred of evidence in the record to support that. It's Florida property, not New York property. Vacant lots go from 10 to $20 million surrounding the resort. They've got homes, $45 million a piece around that. And the whole resort isn't worth but 18 million. That's absolutely ridiculous. I'm personally aware of some resorts that are 65, 80, 100 some million dollars in value, and he wants to say Largo is worth 18 million in his opinion. Where'd he get it? See, that's called a verdict inconsistent with the proof. The only evidence, which is not evidence in the record about the value of these things not being as claimed, is Letitia's statements. And as I have charged juries many a time, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, statements, remarks, and arguments of counsel are not evidence. They're merely designed to assist you in interpreting the law that will be given to you by the court and applying the law to the evidence that has been brought forth during the course of these proceedings. So where do you get it? Now, look at the criminal trial in New York. They charged Trump with making, or his company with making, a false report in a public record about what the payout was to, what's the name?
Stormy Daniels?
Not Stormy Daniels.
Yeah, Dan.
It was Daniels? Okay.
It was Daniels?
Okay, now, and he paid her to silence her so she wouldn't embarrass him. Well, when I went to law school 55 years ago, 50 years ago, we got taught to always flip things around. If you have to pay somebody to keep from embarrassing you, what did you just do? You got blackmailed. Mm-hmm. So they got the man indicted for being the victim of a felony blackmail where the blackmail payoff was paid. Okay, they got the corporation indicted for not making a full disclosure. Well, they were under a court order not to disclose the terms of the settlement. So if the public record was fleshed out with what it was for, then that would violate the court orders. So they indicted a corporation for following the orders of a court that had jurisdiction. It's just like, what are you doing? You know this stuff won't stick. So you're using the criminal or the civil process to interfere with somebody's politics. Now, even if you hate Trump's guts, you don't want the second largest state in the union, population-wise, coming up with a situation where they can authorize prosecution of somebody they don't like politically and knock him out of the box or her out of the box, and at least so they can effectively campaign for the national office. That's why we have the Bill of Rights to prevent that. So whether you like Trump or not, it's just astonishing that somebody got indicted for being the victim of a blackmail attempt, and two, a corporation got indicted for following the orders of a court.
Man.
You know, and then you get down to Florida. Supposedly he violated public secrets. Okay, the secret documents he didn't return or turn over to the archivist. Well, the case in question is called Marbury versus Madison. It is from 1803. That is 221 years ago. It says the president is not bound to follow an unconstitutional act of Congress. And the act giving the archivist the authority to make the demand of the president to turn the documents over flies in the face of a 1988 U.S. Supreme Court case. It's called U.S. Department of Navy versus Egan, E-G-A-N. There are multiple opinions, and when you read them, what you find is this: the president under the Constitution is commander in chief of the military, a chief diplomatic officer of the United States, has the absolute authority and discretion to classify or declassify any document he chooses, wholly or partially, by any means he chooses to use. If he removed them from the White House when he was a president, that's de facto declassification, at least in part. It's already a U.S. Supreme Court decision that's 36 years old that says that's legal. So what did they do? Marbury versus Madison, which is 221 years old, says the Constitution, being what it is, the president is not required to follow an unconstitutional act of Congress. And the other thing that I suspect, from having actually gotten to read the downloads for the 3, not 1 Hunter Biden laptop that was left with the repairman. We swore the repairman in, reviewed the credentials, and looked at the documents, is that the documents that he refused to turn over are very incriminating against the Biden administration and reveal certain felonies in office. So maybe what he was attempting to do is to prevent somebody from securing evidence that they could have concealed to prevent prosecution for criminal activity. I'll just say that. So bottom line is that one won't stick either. The one in Georgia with Fannie's not going to stick, and the one in New York with Letitia civilly is not going to stick, and they are setting the other one for the 15th of April for trial, which is absolutely ridiculous. An appellate court is going to say, you're running for president of the United States, and the polls are showing you got a damn good chance of being the person that's going to have the finger over the red button. No, we are not going to have this case set so you can use it as a pretext to interfere with the election. So in other words, you've got 4 DAs exercising their prosecutorial discretion to control the election process for the whole of the United States of America. You got that with what I thought was complete idiocy by the Colorado Supreme Court in that whole thing about removing him from the ballot. The Supreme Court slapped them down, and they had everybody. That was unanimous. Bush appointees, Obama appointees, and Trump appointees, and at least one Biden appointee unanimously said you can't. It's a federal qualification. Nothing happened in Colorado. Colorado has no business involving itself in that. You can't do it. So what are you doing? I mean, didn't anybody go to constitutional law? You got a unanimous U.S. Supreme Court, and you are on the Supreme Court for a state, and you are unanimous and going, well, not unanimous, but you don't get it about con law. You didn't get anybody to tell you that if you have to pay somebody off to keep them from bribing you, that's blackmail. You didn't learn that. You didn't study one of the most important cases in American history, Marbury versus Madison in con law in the first year of law school. Hey, you don't get that. You didn't read the Constitution. Oh, I forgot about that. All the bar associations conduct regular polling for the last 50 years. Less than 25% of presiding judges and practicing lawyers have actually read the Constitution. They may have studied aspects of it, but only about 25%, actually a little less, have actually read the whole thing. So it's not surprising we get such stupidity.
Man,
So, I mean, so much knowledge, Judge. You got
this is
you
so
can go for
much.
days, right?
This is a lot. Because I mean, I've been looking at it so wrong. And this is why we wanted you to come here, because you just gave so much knowledge that a lot of people, regardless if you like Trump or not, you are putting everything by the law. You're making us look at like this is, even though he shouldn't be, but you got to go by the law, and these people are not following the law.
Yeah.
And we definitely needed your expertise on this.
Yeah, and see, there's a practical thing out in the streets. The public sees this lawlessness, and it starts suffering a lack of confidence in the government. It starts having a problem that is a fallout in the streets. I get out in the streets here in Memphis a lot. I talk to gangsters and stuff like that. Memphis came up with a brilliant idea. Yeah, sure. The chief and the new mayor said, let's identify the criminal elements and we'll stop crime by paying them not to commit criminal acts. Crime doesn't pay? Yeah, it does. Let's move to Memphis, man, so we can crook up and get paid. Meanwhile, you come up with other stupid ideas that lead to things where the gangsters say, hey, man, ain't nobody in charge. We might as well go out there and, we can run it. They not. All these people sitting behind a desk and they're stealing work. It's us. And then you got a president that has been a government employee for his whole adult life and he's become a multimillionaire. You can't get that way with a government check. What the hell?
You can't. No.
So he's a piece of urban trailer park trash from Philadelphia, grew up in Delaware. And I heard him make a speech 1972 where he said Delaware is a bunch of cowards. They were a proud slave-holding state and they should have seceded from the Union and gone with the South, but they were intimidated by their proximity to Washington, D.C.
Wow.
And he knew the Negro.
Well, it was definitely an honor to meet you, Judge.
Yes,
hopefully moving forward with the show as we get more guests and more situations.
Whoa, guys. Whoa. Hold on, Judge.
I have to go.
Okay. You got to tell the unscripted, uncut Al Green story.
Oh, man.
Punk.
Al Green, huh?
And
this will be the last one, and then because we can't keep the judge here all night. So
he has a gospel of song at this church he runs, and he's a pulpit pimp because he can't deliver any message. So he brings people in like me to preach to his congregation, and he pays you, supposed to. Yeah. So he invited me in, called up my secretary. His secretary knew mine, and I was on the bench. So he said he's going to pay me $1,500 to come in and preach to his congregation. So I show up and I deliver his 11 o'clock services, and he tells me that, oh, Judge, I'm sorry. I forgot to get my secretary to sign the check. I'll have it to you this week. So my secretary calls his and she says, we gave the preacher cash. He probably coked it up. So I run into him, Negro, where in the hell is my money? Judge, that was just a little slip on my part. You have to understand, we have our weaknesses. I said, I want my money. Tell you what, Judge. If you do it one more time, the congregation just loves you, I'll give you $5,000 instead of $3,000 to make up for the inconvenience. I said, I want cash when I walk in there. So I walk in there, and he hands me this envelope, about this thick, feels like cash, all right? So these are my constituents, and there's an election coming up. So I'm not going to care to open and count the money up in the pulpit where he hands me. So I'm sitting up in the pulpit. Ladies, the congregation, brothers and sisters, there's something that I have to attend to immediately. So I'm going to leave things in the capable hands of Judge Brown. I may be able to return before services are completed. He goes and steps down. About 10 minutes later, he comes out. He's got on red patent leather shoes, a red suit, red shirt, red tie, a ankle length fake fur coat, and a red pimp hat, looking like the devil he is. He goes off and leaves me in his pulpit. I conducted box services, got a lot of amens and all this other stuff. I open up the envelope when I get out in the car, and it's cut up notebook paper.
Wow.
So every time I saw his name at the airport, where's my money? He take all the list and start running opposite direction. Don't let me catch you.
Wow. Oh my God.
More. He all got all fat and everything, you know. He can't run. He old and decrepit, been hitting that coke too much. Honk.
Oh,
that was a joke.
Pimp. Where's my money, Negro?
oh my God. Now, if that ain't scamming and scheming, I don't know what the hell.
Yeah, and that's why we need shame and guilt. You sit up there and you preach to these folk. Don't you feel guilt in your soul already tinging because the devil got a hold of it, and you feel the burn? You know, you get a preconception of a commercial, some of those trailers to the movie your ass is gonna be in.
Wow.
Don't you feel shame for doing that?
This is crazy. Oh my God. And I would have never known that. If you would have never said it, Judge, I would have never known that. I would have just went on and thought he was so good.
No, punk. Punk.
You learn something every day.
You learn something new every day.
Where he is now, say boo, and the fool fall over and break his head or something, you know. Boo.
Man,
I mean, I think it'd be a good idea to get the judge and Henry together at some point.
Oh, that would be
work, you know?
That would be hilarious.
We'll see. You know, we definitely want to keep him close and see what happens with the show. So we appreciate it, you know.
We want you to be a part of the Power Ranger community, sir. This is the new outlet for you.
Once we get some structure going, you know.
There's a project. Beautiful sister is the producer and the director.
Mm-hmm.
And if I get the title of it correctly, let me make sure I get the title. Hold on 1 second.
You could definitely be one of our morphin masters, you know, for now.
Definitely.
Okay. The title of this production is, The Affair, the Forbidden, or Forbidden the Affair. And the producer, great sister, she does some great stuff. It was a good script. It's called Veronica Thompson. This summer I was up in Baltimore and we taped it. Also, they did something out in Los Angeles. So it started off, I was supposed to be a crooked judge. So I got the ad-lib and stuff, and they huddled and they expanded it. So I'm supposed to be a crooked judge who's also the godfather for this crime syndicate.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It gets interesting. So one of the cable entities picked it up for 2 seasons. So they've got 8 episodes per season. They're expanding it, I think, to 16 per season. So it looks like it'll be pretty interesting.
I can't wait to see this. This is gonna be good.
So
this is gonna be good. But
we even have a few zombies in there from Baltimore. Have you seen the zombies lately?
I'm not a zombie person.
I'm not talking about the movies. I'm talking about real live zombies that you see back. It's the weirdest thing you've ever seen. You look out your hotel room. Is that guy standing in the middle of the street bent up? Is he trying to touch his toes the first time you see it? So you come down and the dude's hung over and it looks like he can't quite touch his toes, and he's not falling over. And there's this big puddle of drool around his feet. You go eat lunch and you come back waiting for the limo to get you or wherever, and this dude's still there. And you look out and there's three of them, and the traffic is going around and the three of them standing in the lanes, and the police been back and forth. They aren't even arresting these dudes. They are zoned out, but they don't fall over. And then you go for a walk around the block for exercise, and there's one standing on the sidewalk, keeled over, ain't falling over. And he's just out of it. And then they got him standing around. They call up, man, that's the zombies, man. Damn. What time is this? I've never seen anybody that kind.
I haven't either. That's just hilarious. But you know what? I have seen people do that before. They just stand up and you just looking at them like, are they alive? Are they even moving? But they don't move.
They're really not just standing up. They're bent over like they're touching their toes, and they don't fall over. And they don't move. It's just like, damn.
Well, we definitely got to keep the judge in the loop, Drew. You know,
that was
depending on where the episodes go, and where we think he can kind of fit in.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Perfect.
Now, by the way, that was Baltimore, Philly, and Minneapolis, St. Paul. I saw that. By the way, I do barbecue sauce. jbbq.com. Judge Joe Brown.
Yeah, we're gonna have to try some of that.
Yes.
That's some good stuff. And
I want a bottle. And we're gonna definitely.
Is it in any stores right now? Can I get it over the counter?
Yeah, it depends on where you are. If you're on the West Coast, it's in stores. It's getting Whole Foods, Sprouts, and that stuff. We've got it okay. We're trying to keep up with the delivery.
Yeah,
you can get it on Amazon, and if you're Amazon Prime, there's free.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I can get it on Amazon.
So there's spicy has the red top on it. That's the regular, and we've got the powder, spicy, mild. We've got chicken links, raw and smoked, hot, mild. We've got beef links, hot, mild. We've got Beyond Meat, those vegan things that taste like meat. We've got that. We've got recipes we're coming out with. We collaborate.
Okay.
We'll be careful who we invite to the barbecue then. That's all. Yeah, the one with the sauce, And
we've got Beyonce's personal chef. He cleaned it up. It's
nice.
Chef Damon. He's got a place called D's Original Takeout Grill on the corner of 79th and Western down in the hood, South Central. You can get it there. He made it so we can sell it at Sprouts and Whole Foods. Mine was the old stuff from 40 years ago, but it is what it is. Same taste. So check it out.
We definitely will.
I also
and so you can impress your friends and
we gotta do it.
With how you can do that meat and deal with it being some good stuff here. Wrap your lips around these bones. We got
now, Judge, pork chops are chunky, right? Tastes so good, make you want to smack your mama, right?
Yeah, that is. And club, gobble, whack. It works on all kinds of stuff, even fish, if you like it. And we even have a recipe using the seasoning for the greens. That's pretty good too, and the beans and other stuff. But you can get that at D's Takeout Grill on the corner of 79th and Western, down in the hood.
Man, we gonna
Judge, tell them about Angelina Jolie getting the newspaper. You got to tell them about that.
Oh, when I had my show, I lived right off of where the Beverly Hills Shopping Center is. And it was right over from Rodeo. I won't say the street where she was living, but it was nearby. So I dropped my son off at Beverly Hills High School, which wasn't all that far away. And I'd come back. She lived a couple of blocks over. Well, the street was Camden, where I was. So he was a couple of blocks over. She'd be out there in the morning doing the yard. She'd very good looking woman. I mean, she wasn't trying to be glammed up. She wasn't being bare. Just be out there working in the yard with her shorts on, and I know, oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Good ass time up in there. Hey.
Man, that is hilarious. I'm gonna tell you, Angelina Jolie, I was a fan of hers, but I just don't know what she's been doing lately. So
I don't either.
I just don't know.
Easy, I guess.
I just don't know. But Judge, we're not gonna hold you too long, but please tell our audience where they can find you and how can we, keep in touch.
Okay. You can get me on Monday for the Man Show with the Real Dana. That's on YouTube. You can get me on Thursday with the Man Up Show and the Real Dana. That's on YouTube. On Friday, I do a thing. It's a call-in thing. It's radio with Valerie Denise Jones. It's called the Judge Joe Brown Show, and you can catch it on iHeartRadio, where it's syndicated the following week. Nice. And every Tuesday, I think it's going to probably be somewhere around 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon. We do an X Space, which usually goes on for 3 hours.
Gotcha.
So that does pretty well. It's a little weird sometimes, but it's what it is. So,
but we will support it. We will support it.
As the enforcer / equalizer on this show.
So, yes, sir.
So you're gonna come get your Denzel on with us every now and then.
And you're more than welcome to always come back. Always more than welcome. Definitely. And we appreciate you.
Strategically place you as the equalizer. So when Judge come through with that fire,
Oh, well, let me tell you, Judge. What about that guy you choked out?
You mean up in that club in Aspen?
Yes.
Oh,
that was in 2013. It was February. And that's when I knew me and my wife were on out. We separated not long after that. But we were in this upscale club in Aspen. That was this big New Zealand guy. He was full of it. So he's going around grabbing women and trying to look down the fronts of their blouses and stuff. So he grabbed my goddaughter and she was trying to pull away. And then he reached over to grab my wife. So I just got him and put him on the ground and choked him out and said...
Did him like Shaft, Samuel Jackson.
And and let him revive him. So now you do it. You don't get out of here. I'm gonna put you out for real. So I got him up, and this guy who had been over in the group, he'd been a former All-Pro linebacker with the NFL. He escorted the guy outside, and the owner of the club came in and, Judge, we've been having an interesting conversation in my office while all of this was going on. So I'll tell you what somebody tells me they saw since you weren't here. So anyway, my wife saw a linebacker take the guy out. She didn't see me choke the guy out. I said, well, she wasn't paying attention. So I guess it's over. So we broke up a little while after that with our fine self.
I don't you heard it here first. You catch them hands from the judge.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I've been taking martial arts for a long time. It wasn't hard.
He used to have them hands.
He's the man.
No matter what. But we're not going to, like I said, we're not going to hold him too long, guys. We really appreciate the Honorable Judge Joe Brown gracing his presence on our first podcast. Please make sure y'all check out everything this man does. We're going to definitely get his barbecue sauce. And I'm going to put the links on my personal website. And I'm going to put it in my link in the description on YouTube.
Without the sauce, you lost,
Definitely. And thank you so much, Judge. You will always be welcome here on this show, no matter what.
We got backup now. We got backup now. Don't mess with the order.
That's right. Just don't ask Judge to take out the trash and you'll be cool.
You remember that?
Yes.
The only
Expect
trash we want him to take out is SJ,
bring in
ASJ. That's the only trash we want him to take out. But other than that, that's no trash.
I told her, I said, as much money as I bring in here, you got a maid, a housekeeper, you got full yard service, you got keepers and all this other stuff. I'll be goddamn if I'm taking out any damn trash. I said, I've done that enough as a profession. I ain't doing it in my house.
You better know it. I agree with that. And on that note, guys, we're going to end this with the judge. You guys have a wonderful night. Drew and Rican.
One other thing.
Go ahead, Judge.
Catch me on X, on the Twitter, at Judge Joe Brown TV. At Judge Joe Brown TV. That's the real me. The shadow.
I'm going to subscribe right now.
But that's really me. Although there are a bunch of imitators out there, but that's me.
Got you.
At Judge Joe Brown TV.
And
all of his links. Go ahead.
You gonna run for mayor again?
Hell no.
Oh, okay. That I was gonna say.
I was doing my doing. You know what the son of a bitch did? There was a city councilman who was the court clerk named Joe Brown. So for 5 weeks in front of the election, NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox, and CNN TV stations were running the picture of the court clerk as the Joe Brown running for judge. I mean, for mayor. They knew that.
They tried to play you.
Wow, that is just, man. I tell you, politics is dirty. This is why.
Well, I mean, they wouldn't even let me put any ads on. I'm saying, man, I'm here, money. What's the problem? Well, we're not taking your ads. So you turn me. I'll sue you. Go ahead, but it'll be too late.
Wow! Now the nerds have to answer to Joe Brown when they come through the order. They got to answer to Justice.
They got to have to answer to us now.
Be careful what you ask for. You just get it. I'm not accountable to anybody right now except the people. So we will be exposing some of these clowns.
Yeah.
Hey, you're gonna be definitely welcome back to do that because we're gonna
want people's champ.
We gonna want it. And on that note, guys, we want y'all to have a good night. Drew, Rican, and Judge Joe Brown. What we're gonna say to everybody. You guys have a wonderful night, and we will see you again. On the order. And you guys have a wonderful night.